How's it going, and welcome back to another video. Today we are checking out a brand new lens by Sigma, and that is the 16mm f1.4 contemporary lens. The contemporary lens is cheaper than the Art Series lenses, so we'll see how it holds up. It's a 67mm filter thread, as you can see there, and there's nothing else too special. This is a specific E-mount lens, which Sigma does not have many of, if I am not mistaken, so that's kind of a big deal. And I believe this is the fastest 16mm you can buy for Sony, if not in general. So let's go ahead and crack this thing open. All right, opening the box here. We've got paperwork. Nobody likes paperwork. And we've got this clamshell thing here. And that's it for the box. And let's see. All right, it's a little smaller than I expected it. I've got the, just one second. I've got this Monster 18 to 35, and I really thought that it was going to be closer to that size just because it's the only other Sigma lens I've got. So there they are side by side, and as you can see, there's quite a huge difference there, especially with the MC11 adapter. Let's go ahead and take that off, and a little bit closer now, but there's still a pretty good difference. All right, the front element isn't too bad. It's a decent size. And it's got a metal mount on the back with a rubber seal. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it does have a rubber weather sealing. So right off the bat, it feels incredibly well made. It's all aluminum. It's got a rubber textured grip for focusing. It's got some plastic here on the back. That's just for gripping it when mounting and unmounting it. It's got a metal E-mount on the back, and on the front, it does have plastic filter threads. So people will complain about that, but this is one of their cheaper lenses. So talking about price, this lens will run you about $450. It's got a nice black finish on the letters there. Made in Japan, 16mm f1.4, and that is a shiny black right there. And that's reflecting in the light. So kind of a neat aesthetic. It feels incredibly well made, very smooth focus ring here. It is a focus by wire focus ring, so it's going to be a little finicky because that's what all focus by wire is. But let's mount it up and see the difference real quick. So starting off, all right, so this is 16mm f4 with the Sony 10 to 18mm f4 lens. The autofocus is very good with this lens. It's incredibly fast. As you can see, it grabs focus almost immediately. You can kind of see the separation. Let me just a little bit closer here. So you can pretty much see everything behind me. So let's go ahead and switch over to the 16mm. And now this is the 16mm f1.4 at f1.4. The autofocus seems to be incredibly snappy, fairly accurate. It has just a little bit of hunting, but other than that, pretty good for a non-native Sony lens. Face tracking seems to be quick. Very fast. All right, autofocus seems to be very good. And also, it's completely silent. I can't hear anything right now. I am maybe 10 inches away from the camera itself. Very silent. So that's good. If you guys saw one of my previous videos, this lens here, very noisy autofocus, not good for video, but this may be a complete game changer. So let's see about minimum focus. Right there is about minimum focus. I am about 3 inches away, and as you can see, it's got a beautifully blown out background. We're gonna get to that in just a second. All right, so this is what the lens looks like when it's mounted on the A6500. It's a very reasonable size. It's not too big, but it's definitely not small. Here's a quick comparison with the 10 to 18mm lens there. And then we got to throw in the kit lens for comparison because everybody's got a kit lens. One more just for kicks. This is the Sony 18-105, which it's actually very close to the size of that lens. All right, so now onto the important stuff. Let's see what the image quality is like with this lens. Okay, this is gonna be image quality speed run. I did this once before and it took 10 minutes, so we're gonna go through this a little faster. This is at f1.4. I've got some sharpness printouts here. And if you look closely here in the middle, there's some slight chromatic aberration, just a little bit of red and a little bit of green, but it's almost not noticeable at all. Even at 1:1 zoom, you really start seeing it zoomed in further than that. There is some more chromatic aberration, none down here in the corner, which is a surprise, and not very much up here either, but there is some up here in the upper left-hand corner. If we jump into here, you can see it above and below these lines. We got red and green, but by the time you get over to f8, it's pretty much completely gone, and you can see there's a notable increase in sharpness as well. If we jump right into the middle here, you can see that we're absolutely pushing the limits of the sensor. Is this lens pretty much fills out every pixel that could be filled out, and it's remarkably sharp. Okay, here's a quick little headshot, and this shows again how unbelievably sharp this lens is. As you look at, just look at that. Just sit here and look at this for a moment, because it is unbelievably sharp. And it's got a beautiful background, but shooting headshots with this focal length really isn't recommended. It kind of gives an odd skewed look to things. So get something a little bit more telephoto if you want it to look really nice. However, this is an example that you can get wider portrait shots with this lens and still have a nice blurred out background. You can see that her face is absolutely tack sharp. We've got a nice blur to the background, and that makes this a very versatile lens as to what you can use it for. It's wide enough for some landscapes, but the aperture is fast enough to still get some killer portrait shots. Moving outside, this little bush here is about 2 feet tall, and you almost can't even see any of the details on the ground because of just how blurred out this lens gets. Here's a quick shot of Sarge. If you've ever tried taking pictures of pets and pixel peeped on them, pixel peep pictures of pets, you will know that the fur is incredibly difficult to get a nice fine detail on. But even at f1.4, all these shots have been f1.4, you can see all the individual strands of hair. It's pretty remarkable at the resolution of this lens. This is a quick shot showing you the distortion that this lens has. If you look at these lines going across here from bottom of the brick to the bottom of the brick, you can see that it does have a little bit of fisheye, but it's not too bad. Definitely manageable and expected with this focal length. So this lens passes with flying colors as far as image quality goes. It's every bit as good as the Sigma Art lens I have. All right, so how might this lens work for vlogging? While I think that 16mm is a little tight for vlogging, I think that this lens gives it a very awesome look. It looks very cinematic. It feels like when you're watching this, it feels like somebody's following you around with a camera. You're like, wow, that looks really cool. So that's mainly due to the background separation that this lens affords. So overall, this is a very cool lens to shoot kind of a selfie portrait with, but practical for vlogging, I'm not so sure. It's nice to have a little bit of a zoom range like the 10-18, or even a wider zoom range like what you would end up with like the RX100, which starts at this focal length and zooms into 70mm full frame equivalent. So while this isn't out of the question, it may be a little limiting, but it sure has a beautiful picture, doesn't it? I mean, just look at that. Just look at that. Also, I'm using the Fosicam gimbal. If you want to see my review of this, go check it out. Okay, so here's a quick example of the bokeh. This is at f1.4 at minimum focus here. And I'm gonna focus past the Christmas tree and onto infinity. And I'm gonna go back to minimum focus and then stop it down from f1.4 down to f16. As you can see, it's got a pretty smooth transition from aperture to aperture, and the bokeh stays almost perfectly circular, has a little bit of a stop shine shape to it. So here's the in-body image stabilization. Just holding the camera with one hand right now, standing still. Now I'm going to switch over to the stabilized video. Now this is with steady shot turned on. I think it's pretty much dead still. This is just seconds after I shot the unstabilized footage. The in-body image stabilization with the A6500 works spectacularly. So overall, this lens has got phenomenal performance all the way down to f1.4, which is remarkable. Most of the time when you get these super fast lenses, when you open them all the way up, the performance really suffers and you have to stop them down at least one stop to really get them in their prime. This lens wide open shoots sharper than most lenses you can buy, and it just gets sharper from there as you stop down. I mean, I have just been absolutely blown away by the Sigma 18-35 and now the 16mm f1.4. Fantastic lens. I don't have enough good things to say. The image quality is great, the autofocus is great, the build quality is great, the bokeh is great when you've got a picture that works with it. The close focus is great. I mean, everything about this lens is just absolutely 5 stars. Sigma has done it again. They do what should be impossible with lenses and make them unbelievably good. Just remarkable lenses. The one tough thing about this lens though is the focal length. While it works great in this situation right here that I'm using it in, which is kind of a head to shoulders kind of deal with putting things in front of me, kind of bringing you into this space and telling you guys about stuff. But as far as photography goes, to fill the frame with a subject from like this, my nose looks huge, you get the kind of wide angle shape that is less than desirable when you're taking portraits. And then when you back up to get kind of a head and shoulders or more of a torso shot, then everything's in focus because it is such a wide angle lens. If you've got a specific use that you know you would use a 16mm f1.4 in, post it down in the comments. I'm interested to see what everybody would use this lens for. Hopefully you guys like this video. Hopefully it answered all your questions. If you have any more questions, post them down below. I'm also going to make a follow-up video comparing it to a few other lenses as well. So be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss that. If you liked the video, give it a like, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next one.